Adumakun, CEO of GCB Bank. You don't want to miss this. Our panel discussions will feature experts with practical experience and knowledge cutting across various industries. It's the ultimate gathering of HR professionals, decision makers, business executives, and innovators. Don't be left out. Register now by calling 020-800-7585. That's 020-800-7585. See you there. The HR Professional Summit and Awards 2024, brought to you by HR Certification Center. Are you ready to be part of the most anticipated HR event of the year? Join us at the HR Professional Summit and Awards as we celebrate 10 years of excellence in human resources. It's happening on Friday, November 29th at the Chartered Institute of Bankers, Legon, UPSA Road, Accra. Themed Agile HR, adapting to business change. This summit will feature thought-provoking sessions, expert insights, and award-winning HR leaders. With our distinguished keynote speaker, Mr. Kofi Adumakun, CEO of GCB Bank. You don't want to miss this. Our panel discussions will feature experts with practical experience and knowledge cutting across various industries. It's the ultimate gathering of HR professionals, decision makers, business executives, and innovators. Don't be left out. Register now by calling 020-800-7585. That's 020-800-7585. See you there. The HR Professional Summit and Awards 2024, brought to you by HR Certification Center. Are you ready to be part of the most anticipated HR event of the year? Join us at the HR Professional Summit and Awards as we celebrate 10 years of excellence in human resources. It's happening on Friday, November 29th at the Chartered Institute of Bankers, Legon, UPSA Road, Accra. Themed Agile HR, adapting to business change. This summit will feature thought-provoking sessions, expert insights, and award-winning HR leaders. With our distinguished keynote speaker, Mr. Kofi Adumakun, CEO of GCB Bank. You don't want to miss this. Our panel discussions will feature experts with practical experience and knowledge cutting across various industries. It's the ultimate gathering of HR professionals, decision makers, business executives, and innovators. Don't be left out. Register now by calling 020-800-7585. That's 020-800-7585. See you there. The HR Professional Summit and Awards 2024, brought to you by HR Certification Center. Are you ready to be part of the most anticipated HR event of the year? Join us at the HR Professional Summit and Awards as we celebrate 10 years of excellence in human resources. It's happening on Friday, November 29th at the Chartered Institute of Bankers, Legon, UPSA Road, Accra. Themed Agile HR, adapting to business change. This summit will feature thought-provoking sessions, expert insights, and award-winning HR leaders. With our distinguished keynote speaker, Mr. Kofi Adumakun, CEO of GCB Bank. You don't want to miss this. Our panel discussions will feature experts with practical experience and knowledge cutting across various industries. It's the ultimate gathering of HR professionals, decision makers, business executives, and innovators. Don't be left out. Register now by calling 020-800-7585. That's 020-800-7585. See you there. The HR Professional Summit and Awards 2024, brought to you by HR Certification Center. Are you ready to be part of the most anticipated HR event of the year? Join us at the HR Professional Summit and Awards as we celebrate 10 years of excellence in human resources. It's happening on Friday, November 29th at the Chartered Institute of Bankers, Legon, UPSA Road, Accra. Themed Agile HR, adapting to business change. This summit will feature thought-provoking sessions, expert insights, and award-winning HR leaders. With our distinguished keynote speaker, Mr. Kofi Adumakun, CEO of GCB Bank. You don't want to miss this. Our panel discussions will feature experts with practical experience and knowledge cutting across various industries. It's the ultimate gathering of HR professionals, decision makers, business executives, and innovators. Don't be left out. Register now by calling 020-800-7585. That's 020-800-7585. See you there. The HR Professional Summit and Awards 2024, brought to you by HR Certification Center.
Why do 93% of the world's leading multinational companies prefer certified professionals? Because they tend to be committed to higher standards and ethics and maintain an informed intercultural competency. Whether you're seeking to build a career or to upgrade your HR professional career, you need to get trained and certified at the HR Certification Center today. Our experience in training and certifying HR professionals is unparalleled. We're trusted to offer a comprehensive portfolio of advanced professional credentials for the HR professionals worldwide, and today, more than 500,000 HR professionals worldwide in 125 plus countries proudly maintain our credentials as a mark of higher professional distinction. HR Certification Center. Call or WhatsApp today on 0244 122 855.
HR Certification Center commits to a higher standard. HR Certification Center commits to a higher standard. HR Certification Center commits HR Certification Center commits to a higher standard. HR Certification Center commits to a higher standard. you ready to be part of the most anticipated HR event of the year? Join us at the HR Professional Summit and Awards as we celebrate 10 years of excellence in human resources. It's happening on Friday, November 29th at the Chartered Institute of Bankers, Legon, UPSA Road, Accra. Themed Agile HR, adapting to business change. This summit will feature thought-provoking sessions, expert insights, and award-winning HR leaders. With our distinguished keynote speaker, Mr. Kofi Adomako, CEO of GCB Bank. You don't want to miss this. Our panel discussions will feature experts with practical experience of knowledge cutting across various industries. It's the ultimate gathering of HR professionals, decision makers, business executives, and innovators. Don't be left out. Register now by calling 020-800-7585. That's 020-800-7585. See you there. The HR Professional Summit and Awards 2024, brought to you by HR Certification Center. Are you ready to be part of the most anticipated HR event of the year? Join us at the HR Professional Summit and Awards as we celebrate 10 years of excellence in human resources. It's happening on Friday, November 29th at the Chartered Institute of Bankers, Legon, UPSA Road, Accra. Themed Agile HR, adapting to business change. This summit will feature thought-provoking sessions, expert insights, and award-winning HR leaders. With our distinguished keynote speaker, Mr. Kofi Adomako, CEO of GCB Bank. You don't want to miss this. Our panel discussions will feature experts with practical experience of knowledge cutting across various industries. It's the ultimate gathering of HR professionals, decision makers, business executives, and innovators. Don't be left out. Register now by calling 020-800-7585. That's 020-800-7585. See you there. The HR Professional Summit and Awards 2024, brought to you by HR Certification Center. Are you ready to be part of the most anticipated HR event of the year? Join us at the HR Professional Summit and Awards as we celebrate 10 years of excellence in human resources. It's happening on Friday, November 29th at the Chartered Institute of Bankers, Legon, UPSA Road, Accra. Themed Agile HR, adapting to business change. This summit will feature thought-provoking sessions, expert insights, and award-winning HR leaders. With our distinguished keynote speaker, Mr. Kofi Adomako, CEO of GCB Bank. You don't want to miss this. Our panel discussions will feature experts with practical experience of knowledge cutting across various industries. It's the ultimate gathering of HR professionals, decision makers, business executives, and innovators. Don't be left out. Register now by calling 020-800-7585. That's 020-800-7585. See you there. The HR Professional Summit and Awards 2024, brought to you by HR Certification Center.
All right, good evening, everyone, and I trust we are doing so good. My name is Samuel Kobina Ansong, and I just want to cross-check if I'm loud and clear on your phone or your device, wherever you're listening to me. So if you can hear me, just give me a hi, just leave a comment. Let me see if I'm loud and clear wherever you are watching me from. So thank you so much for making time. Let's see, we have Enoch from Dansomai. Thank you so much, Enoch. We are grateful. Hi, Edward Pofu. Thank you so much. I'm grateful for being here. Okay, Peter Holder, Madam, I miss you. Beatrice, Melody. Oh, wow. Thank you so much, everyone, for making time to be here. And my name is Samuel Kobina Anson, loud and clear. Thank you so much, Efia. Thank you so much. My name is Samuel Kobina, and I'll be your moderator for today's session. I'm really honored to be your moderator. As always, this event is brought to you by the HR Certification Center as a commitment to educating HR professionals and all professionals on crucial legal framework that affects the workplace. Also, remember that the Q&A is actually a module that we teach here at the HR Certification Center. So therefore, to have a full package, don't forget to join our legal courses, that is the workshop we do, or join our HR professional courses. And today, I'm happy to be joined by Mr. Stephen Kisi and Mr. Kofi A. Jr. So let me join them and introduce them. So let me start with Mr. Stephen Kisi. Hi, Stephen, good evening.
Kwamna. It's always a pleasure to connect with you.
Yes. Let me also bring on board Mr. Kofi Jr. Hi, Mr. Kofi, good evening. Mr. Kofi, can you please...
Good evening, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Mr. Kofi. I know I've worried you. Yes.
There's a reason why he's laughing. Maybe we should tell you.
He told me that. I know, right?
Oh, correct.
I salute.
It's small, though. It's a small world.
It really is.
Let me just give a brief profile about Stephen Kisi. Stephen is currently the lead consultant for Blue Whale Consult, which is a dynamic firm specialized in providing innovative solutions to optimize workforce management and foster productive and harmonious workplaces. With a team of seasoned consultants and industry experts, he worked closely with businesses to navigate complex labor issues, stay compliant with evolving labor laws, and implement strategies and drive organizational success. Stephen has a work experience of 14 years with the National Labor Commission, and he held a position for the head of regional secretariat for Greater Accra between 2010 until he resigned in June 2014. Stephen, welcome.
Thank you, Kwame.
All right. So, Mr. Kofi Uti Edinka Jr. Esquire. The title is not something I'll put aside because I actually want to become a lawyer one day. And I want to be called Esquire Anson. It would be great to have that. So I don't want to put the title aside. So let's do a brief. Let me read his profile. He's a seasoned.
When you can take the title. For now, just.
I'll do that. He's a seasoned attorney and a legal consultant with a strong background in strategic analysis, legal compliance, dispute resolution. He holds an LLB and LM. He is a certified mediator and arbitrator. That's why I say that one day I'll become a lawyer. He's a certified mediator and arbitrator with the National Labor Commission in Ghana. Kofi has an extensive experience in legal consultancy, focusing on areas such as employment law, business registration, commercial practice, and regulatory compliance. He has worked with companies and smaller businesses, helping them with legal advice, risk assessment, and compliance. Before 2019, he was the managing associate of Atuguba and Associates, where he handled legal projects and guided clients on various issues. Kofi also focuses on training and capacity building. He led workshops for Ghana police prosecutors, supported by the U.S. Department of State, and contributed to drafting Ghana's national health insurance and mental health laws. As a lecturer, Kofi has taught at several institutions, including UPSA Law Schools, where he covered subjects like labor law and industrial relations. He believes in using law to promote social change and improve justice and fairness in society. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome our facilitator for today, Mr. Kofi Oti Edinkra Jr. Esquire. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so it's an honor to have both of you. So the story is that Kofi and Stephen are they are bodies. You get it. They are bodies. So today they are here to share their experience with us. So let's start with an open note. Stephen, what are we supposed to look out for today's session?
It's not always the time that you get to sit with Mr. Dinkra. And so for me, I have picked my notebook and I have picked my pen. This one is free legal services for the next 1 hour. So for me, it's going to be more of a learning experience as a practitioner and also as a student of the law. I think that this is a fine opportunity for me to add on to the knowledge that I am trying to build. So I'm all set.
Thank you so much. I'm all set, as what Stephen just said. Mr. Kofi, let's start with you. Let's dive into some fundamentals questions in Ghana relating to entitlement. So let me just ask my first question, then we'll go straight. We good?
Sure.
All right. So let's start with you, Mr. Kofi. Could you highlight or enlighten us on the basic rights that employees have under the Ghanaian law?
Yes. Okay. So if we are talking about basic rights, then we will simply say that we would begin from the purpose of the relationship between the employee and who employed them.
Okay.
So the purpose for finding work as an employee is to earn a living. And the purpose for an employer to take you on as an employee is so that he can also earn a living through your work. So if we are speaking of employees' basic rights, then their basic rights are to receive equal pay for equal work. Let me keep it simple. That's what I would say.
Equal pay for equal work. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Kofi. I believe that. So let me ask this question: equal pay for equal. So equal work for equal pay. Me and Steven. So let's say if Steven is above me, are we supposed to end at equal pay?
Yeah, so that is where the dynamics come in. And you see, despite Steven saying that he's here to learn, don't mind him. I'm also here to learn from him because I know personally, he has sat on several cases regarding workers claiming that the work that they did not match the pay that they got. But the reason why it is not so straightforward is that if we are talking about, let's say, a particular task, such as arranging chairs, this is just an abstract thing, but it's just for purposes of illustration. If you are both SHS graduates and you have been employed in the same department on the same level to do this work of packing chairs, then you are entitled or you have a right to be paid a reasonable amount for that particular work. Now, what amounts to what is a reasonable amount may depend on the industry and certain factors. If this is a matter that ends up before the Chief Labor Officer or the National Labor Commission or before the labor courts, they are just going to look at what, under the circumstances, a reasonable employer should pay. However, if you have similar work and you have an SHS graduate doing that work and you have a university graduate doing that work, there may be some pay disparity. So equal pay for equal work more or less refers to a situation where you are not being disadvantaged when you are doing the same work as another person in the organization who is on the same level as you with the same qualifications. Let me just put it that way.
All right, thank you so much. To our audience online, this is an interactive session. Therefore, we want to encourage you all to drop your comments if you have any question you want our resource personnel to answer for you. Do not hesitate to share your comments in the comment section. So, Stephen, let me ask you this question, and then we can move on. How many hours can an employer legally require an employee to work per day, and what are the rules around overtime?
Okay. So yes, ideally within the Ghanaian setting, a worker is legally allowed to do 8 hours a day and a total of 40 hours in a week. And so you would find that the law under Section 35 will tell you that, and the law I mean is the Labor Act, 2003 Act 651. It will tell you that where the hours of work is exceeding the legal threshold that it has set, which is the 8 hours a week, a day, or 40 hours in a week, then those extra hours must be treated as overtime. And so where that becomes the case, there are certain elements that must come to play for overtime to kick in. So number one, the hours must be more than the 40 hours a week. Again, the employer should have fixed rates to cater for the overtime. And then also, the reason for doing the overtime is because probably there's an emergency or the nature of the work being done at the time requires that the worker stays on to do more than the usual hours they would have done on a normal day. So that's the legal regime that governs the legal hours of work one must perform as a worker in Ghana. And where you are doing more than the legal hours, that's how it is treated. So you will find that depending on the industry you find yourself, there are fixed rates for the weekdays, for the weekends, and then also for public holidays. But the employer must fix these things before it requires an employee to actually perform overtime.
All right, so Stephen, as an employee, you're supposed to work 40 hours, right, a week. So what if I don't work at the 40 hours? Is it still a full-time contract, or there's another name for it? So I know it's 40 hours. So if I don't achieve, if it is above the 40 hours, we call it overtime, right? What if it's below the 40 hours? Is that part-time, or there's another name for it?
Okay, so that would be more of a burden that your employer will carry, because once you come into work, your employer must make sure that there is work for you to do. And so if for any reason the employer would want to, the work assigned is less than the 40 hours in a week, well then, like I said, it's for the employer to do more to make sure that you are making up for these hours. But where it is less than the 40 hours, then it means that elements such as overtime will not come in because you're working below the threshold. And you can trust that for any business entity in Ghana now, nobody would want to bring you in and see you do less hours and yet have to pay you like you're doing the full threshold. And so that's how these things are considered. We look at whether you're meeting the threshold or above it. But if it is below, then the employer must find you more work to do. Otherwise, the normal balance, the devil will find work for an idle hand. So to prevent that, we'll add more work so that you can make up those free hours that you are getting. Yes.
Thank you so much. So, Kofi, let me ask this. In terms of wages, it is one crucial thing. Like, to be honest, I don't believe that if we are doing a contract between Ofari and Ofaro, I think the element of exchange is important, where you don't have to recruit me and not pay me, right? Could you let me know the wage? Okay, in terms here, Ghana. I'm speaking for Motherland, Ghana. Could you tell us about the minimum wage in Ghana and how frequent it is reviewed?
Okay. So that's actually very simple. So the minimum wage is set every year by a body that has been set by law, known as the National Tripartite Committee. So it is tripartite because it represents the interests of government, employers, and workers. Almost invariably, every January, they set the minimum wage. And so if I tell you the minimum wage now, which is 18.15 Ghana cedis a day, in about 2 months' time, 2 to 3 months' time, it is going to change. In about 2 to 3 months' time, it's going to change again. So, but of course, over here, we normally calculate our wages per month. So it will be easier if I say that the minimum wage is 489 cedis. It's actually 489 and some coins, I think 0.5 or something a month currently. But we are sure that it will go up in about 3 months' time. So every January it changes, and it is calculated. This 489 that I'm talking about is calculated on the assumption that you work 27 days a month.
Okay.
Yeah, so it is the 18.15 times 27.
18.15.
Yes, currently it is 18.15 Ghana cedis times 27. Yes, 18. So 18.15 Ghana cedis a day times 27.
If let me do a follow-up question.
Sure.
Can an employer legally terminate an employee's contract without giving any notice? And what right to do an employee have if they are dismissed?
Okay, so in your question, I know you said terminate.
Yeah.
But legally speaking, I mean, if that's English, then that's fine. But in the legal space, there's a distinction between terminating and dismissing. But in normal parlance, either way, they will tell you that the value is the same, because either way, your work has been stopped. So if you are talking about whether or not an employer has the right to end your employment all of a sudden, yes, an employer has that right. However, that right is not absolute. He can't just do whatever he wants. So there are requirements. Usually, every employer or every workplace has a code of conduct or some do's and don'ts. Where an employee is deemed to be guilty of gross or serious misconduct on this of it, then you may be tantamount or you may be liable to be dismissed. And that dismissal comes without notice. So they will just dismiss you. And in addition to that, you may go without any entitlements that the employer has to give you. So if there's something you have already earned, that the payment has only been deferred before the point when you were deemed to have been guilty of a serious or gross misconduct, you are entitled to that. However, if there's something that you if it's something that you were going to earn, perhaps it is November 10th, and you were going to earn that November 15th, and the employer legally dismisses you November 11th or November 10th, you are not entitled to those. You are not entitled to get that. If, however, the misconduct is not deemed to be serious, it's not gross misconduct, but it is still misconduct, then usually you would go through a disciplinary procedure where you will be, you'll be queried, you'll be asked. The purpose of that procedure, let me summarize it, is for you to show reasons why disciplinary action should not be taken against you. So you come, your charges, if I should put it in quotes, your charges are given to you. Then you are given the opportunity to respond. And then based on your response, usually if there's a committee or whatever that it is, based on your response, the decision will be made as to whether or not your explanation is genuine or it is reasonable. And so we are not punishing you, or we don't accept it, and so we are punishing you. And so those are the ways in which your employment can come to an end. On the other hand, as we speak generally, an employer can also exercise their general rights to terminate the employment contract by giving you notice. If your contract is a monthly contract, that is where you are paid every month, then generally speaking, you must get 1 month's notice. If it is a weekly employment, you are given 1 week's notice. If it is an employment from day to day, then all he has to do is tell you that tomorrow don't come. So it is either they give you that amount of notice, or you are not given notice, but you are given pay in lieu of notice. Now, in lieu means instead of the notice. So here, this is where the employer may say that we want to terminate this agreement for whatever reason, and because we are terminating it immediately, instead of giving you the 30 days notice, we are giving you your 30 days pay as sort of as compensation for not giving you the 30 days notice, and that is also legal. So those are the ways that your employment may come to an end. Sorry if I've gone beyond the scope of your question.
It's insightful, like myself. Stephen, I'll have a question for you with regards to leave.
Okay.
I like leave.
I know you don't play with leave.
Before I ask that question, this webinar is brought to everyone here by HR Certification Center, and as part of the activities, there's this upcoming event that I believe we can't miss. That is HR Professional Summit. So let me just play a short commercial, and I'll be back shortly. Give me a minute. I'll be back right after this short commercial. Then we talk about leave.
Are you ready to be part of the most anticipated HR event of the year? Join us at the HR Professional Summit and Awards as we celebrate 10 years of excellence in human resources. It's happening on Friday, November 29th at the Chartered Institute of Bankers, Legon, UPSA Road, Accra. Themed Agile HR, adapting to business change. This summit will feature thought-provoking sessions, expert insights, and award-winning HR leaders. With our distinguished keynote speaker, Mr. Kofi Adomako, CEO of GCB Bank. You don't want to miss this. Our panel discussions will feature experts with practical experience of knowledge cutting across various industries. It's the ultimate gathering of HR professionals, decision makers, business executives, and innovators. Don't be left out. Register now by calling 020-800-7585. That's 020-800-7585. See you there. The HR Professional Summit and Awards 2024, brought to you by HR Certification Center. Are you ready to be part of the most anticipated HR event of the year? Join us at the HR Professional Summit and Awards as we celebrate 10 years of excellence in human resources. It's happening on Friday, November 29th at the Chartered Institute of Bankers, Legon, UPSA Road, Accra. Themed Agile HR, adapting to business change. This summit will feature thought-provoking sessions, expert insights, and award-winning HR leaders. With our distinguished keynote speaker, Mr. Kofi Adomako, CEO of GCB Bank. You don't want to miss this. Our panel discussions will feature experts with practical experience and knowledge cutting across various industries. It's the ultimate gathering of HR professionals, decision makers, business executives, and innovators. Don't be left out. Register now by calling 020-800-7585. That's 020-800-7585. See you there. The HR Professional Summit and Awards 2024, brought to you by HR Certification Center.
All right, thank you so much. Steven, now back to my question.
Yes, Kwame.
Steven, you know leave there. Everyone like leave. Unless you like leave. Me, I like leave.
Not everyone is like you, Kwame. Some people don't like going on leave.
Okay. Steven, let's talk about leave entitlement.
Okay.
How much leave or how many leaves is the employee entitled by law? How many leave days am I entitled by law?
Okay, so you define that by law in any undertaking, you get the right to enjoy a minimum of 15 working days as your leave entitlement. So that means that if you find yourself currently engaged in any form of employment for which you're being given less than 15 working days, then what your employer is doing is actually against the labor law. So if you are not getting anything at all, you should be earning the minimum of 15 working days and above. So what the provision in the law is just the minimum. Any employer can give you more than the 15 working days, and that is okay by the law. The law will only have an issue where the leave that is being granted to you is less than the 15 working days. And so you find that there are certain undertakings that they would say, okay, when you work between 1 year and 3 years, we'll give you the minimum, which is 15 working days. 3 years to maybe 5 years or 6 years, we'll graduate it to maybe 18 or 20 days. And maybe 8 years and above, we'll give you 23, 24, depending on what the employer would want to do to manage the human capital. There's nothing wrong with that kind of arrangement as well. But so long as you're getting the 15 and above, there is no issue. But if it is less than the 15, then your employer is shortchanging you and you need to bring their attention to this.
Steven, let me do a follow-up question. Is it possible for an employer to deny my leave?
Well, yes, it is possible, but it is conditional.
Okay.
So, like we are here now, maybe on a normal day, or maybe let's say in the normal scheme of things, probably you were supposed to start your leave yesterday or something, or even today, because I know you guys work on a Saturday. But for some reason, or maybe because of this particular webinar we are having, let's say you put in your leave application during the week to start today. Because of this program, your employer can defer your application to another date. So you will say that, yes, you have been denied your leave, but it is just on a temporary phase. So where your employer denies you, then he has to make arrangement for you to take the leave on a day that is suitable for the business. So that you have put in the leave application alone is not guaranteed that you, when the date is due, you should just pick up your bags and go. You should get the permission from or the authority from your employer saying, yes, I have gone through this, it is okay, proceed on the leave. Then you go on leave. But when we need you to work, then we will defer the leave and then have you go on a day that is okay for the business. So yes, we can deny you, but not in the, just like Esquire mentioned, not in the general or English sense of I have denied you, so you are not entitled to it at all. But I'm denying you on a temporary basis because I require you to be at work, but I'll still allow you to go and enjoy the leave on a different day.
All right, thank you. There are some few comments in the comment section, which I'm sure.
Let me add something.
Okay.
Let me just add something. Let me just add something. So when it comes to leave, just a quick one. When it comes to leave, there is the practice, and then there's what is written in the law. Now, technically speaking, it is your employer who should tell you when to go on leave. So every year, when you read the law, every year, the employer is supposed to schedule the employees and inform you when you are scheduled to take your leave. But practically, we don't do that. And also practically, most employers have allowed us to choose when we would go on leave. And sometimes we use the leave for a few things. Some people want to write exams, some people want to do something, so they just allow that. And so if we understand it that way, then we will understand why Stephen makes the point that he makes, which is that your employer can tell you, even when you have decided when you want to go on leave, your employer can tell you, nope, I need you on this day. And then after your employer has no longer needs you specifically, you can go on leave. So that's just something I wanted to add.
Kofi, thank you for the addition. There's a question in the comment section. The person is asking, are domestic workers like cooks and cleaners entitled for leave?
Oh, yes. In fact, that is an excellent question, because the regime for domestic workers is quite new.
Okay.
So until recently we didn't have any legislation for domestic workers, but we do have the domestic workers regulations now, as we speak, and they are recognized as workers. But when you have a specific class of people that have peculiarities, then you create specific law for them. And so we have the domestic worker regulations. And yes, they are entitled to leave. They are entitled to minimum wage. In fact, technically speaking, you should be paying SNET for your workers, even if they are domestic workers. Yeah, so they are entitled to the same things as regular workers, just that by the nature of their work, we had to create special regulations for them.
Stephen, you were talking about leave. There's this question. Let me ask, because it's a good question, Pa. So can leave arrears of an employee be commuted into cash?
Okay. So I'll say yes and no.
Okay.
Yes, in the sense where your employment is being terminated and you have leave days in arrears or leave days that you have accrued, then the law will allow your employer to commute those days into cash and pay to you. So that is the circumstance where your leave arrears can be commuted to cash and paid to you. But where you're not being terminated, but you are still in the workforce, or you are still an employee, then just like Espa mentioned, the employer is enjoined to make sure that you enjoy the benefit of leave. So you will go on leave. If you have accrued, go and stay home and exhaust those days and come back. There is nowhere in our law now presently that would allow an employer to commute leave into cash and pay to an employee. The law doesn't recognize that arrangement. So when you do that and down the line, the employee sends you to the courts or to the Labor Commission on an issue and the element of leave comes up, the law will treat it as if the person has not gone on leave at all. And then you'll be asked to now commute those days and pay to the employee. So you'll be paying twice because you decided to do the wrong thing. The law will not recognize your earlier, and it will not pardon you because you were being nice. So for the employers out there and for HR practitioners, if it is the practice you are doing now where you are commuting active workers leave into cash, so sometimes the year is drawing close, then you will go to the office and say, oh, Christmas time, we will need you around. So how many days do you have outstanding now? We'll add it to your November salary. I beg you, in the name of whatever you believe in, put an end to it. That's all I would say. Please put an end to it. I don't know if Esquire would want to add on, but for me, that's my 2 cents.
Esquire,
No, I mean Stephen is on point. It's not. You should just know that it is a risk that you are taking as
Okay.
an employer. That's all I'll say.
So I will take two comments, then we will now switch to workmen's compensation. So there's two questions here. So let me drop this one and let's see. Is it lawful to ask an employee to work during their leave period? Esquire.
Yes, it is lawful. It is lawful. However, it shouldn't be. So one, it's not something that should be subjected to abuse.
Okay.
Secondly, I mean, sometimes when you work in a certain environment and you tend to be the hardest worker, you end up being overworked, even though the other employees, because your bosses tend to rely on you because they do not like the work of the other people. So even when you're supposed to be sleeping, they'll be calling you. That's what I mean by abuse. But that aside, that's just a side note. It is lawful for your employer to recall you from leave. However, as as almost always, it is subject to certain requirements. So first, some people take their leave and don't stay in the country or in the city or in the town where their employment is. So if you have to commute back, your employer you are entitled to receive the costs for that to be reimbursed. You're supposed to take care of that. You're supposed to take care of when you are done. You are supposed to be allowed to go back to continue your leave. If you worked for 3 days, your leave should be extended by another 3 days, and you should be allowed to go back. Um, practically speaking, sometimes the interruption in your leave may not allow you to even go on the leave again, and then the year will end. In that case, you are allowed to, carry forward your leave into the following year. So yes,
Okay.
your employer can interrupt your leave.
Esquire, let me ask another question. There's a question from is it Fauzia too? She's asking,
But is that too?
yes. So she's asking, please, is a casual staff entitled to leave and how many days?
So first, what is the definition of a casual staff?
Okay.
That is the thing. What's the definition of a casual staff? So what the law says is that if somebody works and people try, the law is designed to create a level playing field because employers tend to have more power than employees. And so what the law says is that if somebody works with you continuously for 6 months, the person is deemed to be an employee. So you may not designate the person as an employee, but the law doesn't care what you designate the person as. What the law cares about is, does the person fit the criteria for to be defined as an employee? So having said that, you may be deemed as casual or whatever description. Some employers give different descriptions. Whilst you're in a period of probation, the probation should not be more than 6 months, according to law. Within that 6 months, and leave is annual. It's annual leave. So that is why, practically speaking, they will tell you that when you're on probation, you're not entitled to leave. It is because you are entitled to leave, annual leave, after you've worked in each year of continuous service. And when did your continuous service start? It started when you were employed. So if you were employed in January, you've not worked for a year until the following January. Then you're entitled to annual leave. However, under certain circumstances, if you need to go on leave or the other, they may prorate the leave. So instead of
Okay.
the minimum number of days you can go on leave is 15 days. That's for working for 1 year. So if you work for 6 months, then you of course you will not get the 15 days, even if they are going to allow you to go on the leave. So as long as you have not reached the minimum threshold for work, you are not entitled to leave. However, this is annual leave. There is sick leave. There is maternity leave. And that one applies to you immediately you start working, regardless of the type of worker that you are. And so you are entitled to these kinds of leave: sick leave, and maternity leave. It is annual leave, which gives some leeway to the employer. In fact, both the employer and the employee by the law. So the question as to whether casual workers are entitled to leave, I will say yes, but it depends on the type of leave and the time that they leave they want to take it.
And the time to, I think the time to is really, really important. Stephen, let me ask this workman compensation question, then maybe we can start the conversation from there. If I get to work and I get injured, what should I do at the first place? And what compensation should I expect?
Okay, so you suffer a workplace or a work-related injury.
Yeah.
The first thing you need to do is to first check yourself in a medical facility.
Okay.
Life first. Now, you would find that, and I'm sure that somewhere within our discussion, it may come up. You would find that the law that regulates injuries at work, which is the Workmen's Compensation Act, requires that an employer has a duty to report every accident that occurs on their site or at the workplace. And so if I'm an employee and I get injured, I'm sure that you would find that in every work there are safety protocols.
Yeah.
So first, the safety protocols will kick in. Submit yourself to either a nearby medical facility or company designated medical facility for medical attention. And then the other protocols will begin, where we will need to put in a report, get to investigate to see the circumstances that led to the injury, and other steps we can put in to either prevent its occurrence or to ensure or improve the safety at work. So if you're an employee and you get injured at work, like I mentioned, number one, medical attention, and then number two, we kick in the necessary safety protocols to ensure that we prevent its occurrence or we improve the safety at work. Because if you look at Section 10 of the Labor Act, it is one of the rights that an employee has, that you work in a satisfactory, safe and healthy environment. So yes, safety is one of the things that you don't play with within the work environment. So that's how we look at it. We let you go through the needed medical attention, and then we kick in the safety mechanisms that are there or the safety policies and what it requires of us to do, and then we go through it. If it is determined that yes, it was not a result of your negligence and all of those things, but it was an accident in the name of what an accident is, then you would find that we would say, okay, then we would have to award you workmen's compensation. We'll do the necessary formalities, fill out the form, submit to the medical officer. Labor department will also do the assessment, do the calculation, and then award the compensation depending on the degree of incapacitation that the medical officer will award. Then the payout is made. So that's how we treat it.
Esquire, there's this question from Portia Akotobuate. So she's asking if a locum or part-time worker staff get a car accident on her way to work and got injured, went to the hospital for care. How should this case be handled?
Okay. The question that should be answered in order to deal with such a matter is whether or not that injury took place in the course of her employment.
Okay.
So if you are injured in the course of your employment, that is when you are entitled to compensation. So when your shift ends and you're on your way home, you are not in the course of your employment. Again, if your shift hasn't started and you are now heading to work, you are not in the course of your employment, generally speaking. But there are certain situations that we can call them in the middle. So for some employers, you are required to be at a certain bus stop at a particular time for the employer's vehicle to pick you up. And then when the employer's vehicle picks you up, of course, it's taking you to work, or it's taking you to the office, or it's taking you to a particular location, even if it is outside your employer's premises. Now, if something happens to you on the employer's transportation, then you may make the argument, because of course, I mean, it is the employer's driver, it is the employer's vehicle, and all of that. But please let me sound this question. When you are, and of course, at the same time, if you are, you are at work, you reported to work at 8 a.m., and then the employer's car is taking you somewhere to bring you back, and it's related to your work, you are still in the course of employment.
Mm-hmm.
The question I wanted to sound is that if you decide to stop and then buy Kofi Brookman at the roadside.
Kelewele.
Thank you, Kelewele. Because there's nothing like Kofi Brookman anymore. You are buying Kelewele and something happens. Maybe another vehicle, fails its brakes and comes to hit you there. The question that we will ask is the purchase of the Kelewele in the course of your employment?
Hmm.
So it depends on the specific circumstances of the case. But generally speaking, when your shift is over and you're on your way home, or when you are now coming to work, you are generally not in the course of employment. I can see you have a follow-up question. You can ask it.
yes. I have a follow-up. So let me ask Kofi, does Workman compensation covers all medical expenses?
Yes, it is supposed to cover medical expenses where the employer, I mean, all questions as to whether it is the employer that has to pay, where those questions have been answered, then yes, your medical expenses are supposed to be covered. Yes, the answer to that is simple.
So we have 10 minutes to end this session. There's a lot of questions in the comment section, and trust me, I'm going to pause my questions now and we answer every question in the comment section. But before that, at the HR Certification Center, we are here to make sure that you get nothing but the best. So we are starting our professional courses, and we just want to encourage everyone who is on this call. If you're an HR practitioner, this is the right place for you to sign up. So we have the Associate Professional in Human Resource International, which is starting on the 30th of November. We want to encourage you, and the requirement is no degree, no work experience, and it is online every Sunday from 1 to 6 p.m. The modules we are going to take you through are HR operations, recruitment and selection, compensation and benefits, human resource development and retention, employee relation, health and safety, then labor law. So what we are discussing now is actually a module that we teach here at the HR Certification Center. So this is the Associate Professional in Human Resources. You don't have to have work experience. So you don't have work experience, you don't have degree. This professional course is for you. Then we have Professional in Human Resource International. And that one too, we have online and in-person option. So we have Saturday, you come to our facility here at East Legon. And if it is Sunday, you can opt for the virtual one, which starts from 1 o'clock p.m. to 6 p.m. The requirements are degree. You need to get a degree in any field. Then you need to get a 2 to 3 years working experience. And module 6 is labor laws of Ghana, everything we are discussing today. Then we have the Senior Professional in Human Resources International. And this one, the requirement is you need a master's degree. Otherwise, bachelor degree plus 4 years work experience. And that one too, we have online option and in-person option. So the number to call is 0244 122 855. The number to call to sign up on this professional courses is 0244 122 855. As I mentioned, you can't miss the HR Professional Summit and Award, which is happening on the 29th of November at the Chartered Institute of Bankers, Legon UPSA Road. You can't miss this event. Now let's come back to the comment section. Please, if you have any comments, this is the right time. Let me check. I have exactly a minute to end this session. Let me go to the comment section. So there's a comment from Jennifer Asari. Is it lawful for an employer to deduct the salary of a worker for being sick, although he or she has a proof from a doctor? And again, can a worker request for an overtime payment, although there wasn't a written or verbal agreement between them and the employer? Esquire, please take this up.
Okay, so the question is, we can divide it into two.
Yes.
So the first part, deducting salary from a worker's remuneration for being sick. Some of the employers or the workplaces require you to go to their clinic if you are sick. And so if you are going to have an excuse duty, then it should be certified by a particular health professional or a particular hospital that is linked to that the employer has links with. So even, of course, there can be medical emergencies. So even where there's an emergency and you seek medical assistance from somewhere else, after you are discharged or whatever that it is, you have to come back or bring the report or come back to the accredited, in quotes, the health facility accredited by your employer for them to confirm it. If you do not do that, they can deem it technically that you were absent without leave. That is what brings some of these issues. However, if your employer does not have that from the beginning and you go to any, of course, I mean, hospitals are regulated. So if you go to any recognized hospital and you bring, your sick leave, your excuse duty, then there shouldn't be a problem. There shouldn't be a problem there. And your salary, nothing should be deducted from your salary. Also, let me just add that if you are on sick leave, I mean, whilst you are in the hospital, you can always apply for sick leave. A family member or anybody you can call, whatever. I mean, it's an emergency, so you may not have the luxury of now applying ahead of time. You can send word with a note from the doctor to your employer to notify them that you will need to take sick leave. So that is how that is how it works. So when you're on sick leave, nothing should be deducted from your salary unless there's a laid down procedure by your employer that you have not followed. Secondly, how can a worker request for overtime payment, although there wasn't a written or verbal agreement? Now let me say this: the employer-employee relationship is regulated by law. Where there are gaps in your employment contract, the labor law is the default. It's your default employment contract. And the labor law has provisions on overtime payment. The only difficulty is that where you require your workers to do overtime, you should set up a scheme, or there should be some scheme that gives flesh to the skeleton that the Labor Act has given, such as the rates of overtime and all of that. But generally speaking, overtime, and practically speaking, a lot of the time, overtime should be it is planned, or it should be pre-approved by the employer. And then so you fill a form depending on the workplace. However, if there's an emergency, where you are asked to do some overtime work and it becomes a little consistent without agreeing with the employer ahead of time. I mean, it's the employer that gave you the work to do. And so you are still entitled to overtime. And where there's a dispute, you know where to go. Either you're going to the chief labor officer or to Stephen's former office.
All right, thank you so much. There's another question from Samuel Anson. He's asking, on what condition can an employer decide to cancel an employee's leave? Steven.
Okay, so if this is related to Kwabena, the earlier question about being denied the leave, then I would say that we've already answered this. So if he's just using the word cancel, as in you have applied but we are not giving it to you now, but at a later date, then yes, that will be one of the conditions that your leave can be cancelled. But to say in its entirety that we are cancelling your leave, you will find that in the law, it is clear that any agreement to forego leave is null and void. So the two of us cannot sit down and say, Kwabena, you work for me, but when it comes to leave, don't mention leave. You keep working and keep working and keep working. No, that agreement by law is improper. The law will not even recognize it as an agreement. So, like I mentioned earlier, unless it is to defer to a different date, then we don't have a problem. But there are no other conditions for which an employer can say that I am canceling your leave in the loose sense of cancellation as we have come to appreciate it. That one, it is the employer will not have it. There are no conditions. So it will be difficult for me to say, oh, we can point this and this and say this is the reason why we are canceling your leave. But if it is to defer the leave to a different date, then in the sense of cancelling, yes, the employer can do that.
Okay. All right. So there's another question from Justina. What if I have an emergency to attend to during my leave? Can I refuse to return to the workplace? Escort.
Okay, so let me just say that some of these things are a matter of relations. So if there's an emergency at work which requires your attendance, and the law actually makes provision for recalling employees due to an emergency, or even overtime due to an emergency, or even not letting you go on leave due to an emergency. All those things are allowed by law. So, I mean, if generally speaking, if there's an emergency or you are recalled, you have to go. But if you also have an emergency, I mean, the law is not going to, you won't find it black and white in the law. However, some of these things, they are just human relations. So just inform your HR manager or the office, the employer, explain yourself, and any reasonable employer should allow you to not return or to find another solution. However, if you have, and I know I've dealt with several cases where the employee deems their employer to be a hardliner, someone who doesn't compromise, and even something that a reasonable person would agree, they will not agree. Honestly, when it becomes like that, you have to get a third party to deal with the matter, to mediate or deal with the matter. That's where the NLC comes in, or the chief labor officer comes in. And I am pretty sure that if you really have an emergency, looking at the situation, they'll always judge what a reasonable employer would do, what under the circumstances, what should have been done. So yes, that would be my answer to this. But refusal in the sense of just tell them I cannot come back, I can assure you that you will get into trouble for that. So it all depends on how you go about it.
Thank you so much, Esquire. Our time is almost up. But Steven, let me ask you this last question. Okay, there's a question from Abubakar. An employee who absent himself for some number of days without permission, can the days not worked for be deducted from the salary after disciplinary proceedings prove his reasons are intangible? Steven.
Okay, so I want to believe that if we have subjected that person to a disciplinary proceeding, then there should be a policy at the workplace to deal with absenting yourself from work. Because under prohibited deductions, which the labor law makes provision for, you cannot impose any financial burden on an employee's salary for any cause whatsoever. So, premised on that, it means that if I absent myself from work without permission, and the disciplinary committee is able to establish that is the case, and I came to give you some flimsy excuse, my dog died, and so I was mourning, those kind of things, then the employer should have other means of sanctioning that particular attitude, but not saying that because you were absent for 3 days or for 5 days, I am taking it from your salary. The law frowns on that activity. So that's why it will tell you that as an employer, you have the right to formulate your own policies and programs. So formulate a policy to deal with absenteeism and let the worker enjoy his salary. That's all I'll say.
So let me ask this question. For employees to enjoy their salary now, we need to get everything in full. There was a company here in Ghana. I don't want to mention their name. When you are late for work, they deduct you 50 cedis. And
What? How much? 50 CDs?
50 cedis, yes. And when you don't come to work, they deduct.
But how much is minimum wage?
Yeah.
And Steven, I need your opinion on this. What does the law say about deducting or touching your employee's salary because he didn't come to work, because he's late? Because this is our last question that we call it a day.
Okay. So me, I'll just say one thing, then I'll let Esquire add up, and then you take over. So for all of us listening, let's get copies of the Labor Act, number one. And then number two, let's look at section 69 and section 70. Once you're able to apprise yourself with the two sections, you would realize that what you are doing, like in your circumstance, if you don't come for work, they take 50 Ghana cedis. It is wrong. They are not supposed to. So look at section 69, look at section 70. But if you have suffered it and you need some legal advice, I beg you, Esquire is here. Find him so that he'll pay something. This one is not free, please. Pay something. Then Esquire can make a good case for you. Senior.
Esquire, please, I need your comment before I bring this bit to an end.
No, I mean, I do not disagree with Stephen at all. I mean, he said something earlier, and I think that we should keep it at the back of our minds, that the employee's salary is almost sacrosanct. And so it is the duty, the same way you have a duty as an employer to arrange the leave of your employees every year, you also have a duty to discipline. And in that code of discipline or your disciplinary procedure, there should be punishments for some of these things. And so when the employee is guilty of any of the offenses that are listed, you take them through the relevant procedure, and then you apply that. But that should not include docking their salary. Docking salary is not, as Stephen said, I mean, the law frowns upon it. It's not something that should be done.
Thank you so much, Esquire. So I think someone asked if this meeting is recorded. Please, this meeting will be on all our pages till let me put it that way. So you can have yes, you can have access to this video on our YouTube platform. You can have it on our LinkedIn platform. You can have it on our.
Now, just a small thing, please. Someone asked a question. Someone typed a question about the busing of employees to work, and was making a point that it's supposed to be a favor to the employees, and some of these employees are some of these buses are even hired buses. So I want to draw a distinction. You know, some workplaces you can only drive to a point, or you can only go up to a point, and then the rest of the way the employer has to bus you there, has to take you there. So for such arrangements, you are in the course of your employment. That's what we mean. I mean, you are in the course of your employment when you are on the bus on such a transportation going to work. And remember, it's not always vehicles. Sometimes it may be a ferry. Okay. Or you may be going underground or something. So let's not think of it only in terms of hiring Agate transport or something to take you from your house. That's quite a different different matter. That's all. That's the only intervention I want to make. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Doc. So we want to remind you all that on the 29th of November, we are all meeting at the HR Professional Summit, and you can visit. On the 30th, we are doing a takeover for cohort 41. Therefore, if you are an HR practitioner on this platform, call us on 0244 122 855 to sign up on our professional courses. Let me take a closing remark from my resource person. So let me start with Doc. Esquire, is there your closing remark for today's session?
Yeah, so what I'll say is that the employer-employee relationship is one that is regulated. And so the best way to protect ourselves or to advise ourselves as to our responsibilities and not just and as well as our rights is to either read the relevant regulations or get advice generally on what your rights are regarding your particular work. Before, more or less, look before you leap. Because I realize that in my practice, a lot of the time we go along with common sense, thinking that yes, this is how things should be. Unfortunately, the law is not something that always follows common sense, and so sometimes we end up in trouble. So let us always apprise ourselves of what the rules are relating to the work that we do, and it can solve a lot of issues for us even before the issues start. Thank you.
All right, Stephen.
Okay, so all I will say is just I'll just build on where Esquire just landed. That where you are not sure, seek advice. Case closed. Even sometimes when you are very sure, you can always ask around. We all find ourselves in various networks. Let's take advantage of these networks. This is what I intend to do. You think it is appropriate, you will get 1 million people letting you know the appropriateness of your actions or otherwise. But you don't do it, and then when you are done, then you go and look for Esquire and say, oh, I didn't know that if I put the knife in his stomach, he would die. So what do I do next? The sanction there, you will suffer it. At best, council would make some argument for which we should mitigate your sanctions more, but the sanction will still come. So let's always seek advice, like council has mentioned, and then we are good to go. As HR people, just like council said, we should know our way around our industry, because HR is one of the regulated industries. So if we know our laws, then we are safe. And where we are not sure, look for council. Council there, he's there. Look for him. Finding him is not hard. Where you are not sure, you meet me at the back. I will show you where to find him. Then it's not free to beg you. But thank you to the center for always putting this together. We enjoy the discussions, and we also get a chance to also learn as facilitators as well. So thank you, Kwamna.
As an HR, always make sure you know your laws and you'll be safe. From Stephen Kisi, quoted, I quote. All right, thank you so much, Esquire and Stephen, and everyone who joined this session. It's been an insightful discussion. I want to thank you for making time to join us. As I said, the video will be on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. If you want every information about the center, kindly visit our website at www.phrglobal.com to read about every information. You can reach us on 0244 122 855. Thank you so much, Esquire. Thank you so much, Stephen Kisi. And thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you for the opportunity.
This session.
Thank you.
Until then, good evening and be safe. Bye-bye for now.
Are you ready to be part of the most anticipated HR event of the year? Join us at the HR Professional Summit and Awards as we celebrate 10 years of excellence in human resources. It's happening on Friday, November 29th at the Chartered Institute of Bankers, Legon, UPSA Road, Accra. Themed Agile HR, adapting to business change. This summit will feature thought-provoking sessions, expert insights, and award-winning HR leaders. With our distinguished keynote speaker, Mr. Kofi Adomako, CEO of GCB Bank. You don't want to miss this. Our panel discussions will feature experts with practical experience of knowledge cutting across various industries. It's the ultimate gathering of HR professionals, decision makers, business executives, and innovators. Don't be left out. Register now by calling 020-800-7585. That's 020-800-7585. See you there. The HR Professionals Summit and Awards 2024, brought to you by HR Certification Center.
Why do 93% of the world's leading multinational companies prefer certified professionals? Because they tend to be committed to higher standards and ethics and maintain an informed intercultural competency. Whether you're seeking to build a career or to upgrade your HR professional career, you need to get trained and certified at the HR Certification Center today. Our experience in training and certifying HR professionals is unparalleled. We're trusted to offer a comprehensive portfolio of advanced professional credentials for the HR professionals worldwide, and today, more than 500,000 HR professionals worldwide in 125 plus countries proudly maintain our credentials as a mark of higher professional distinction. HR Certification Center. Call or WhatsApp today on 0244 122 855.
HR Certification Center commits to a higher standard. HR Certification Center commits to a higher standard.